The eBay listing read, rustic micro cabin, 240 square FT, off-grid gem, minimalist haven, gray area ownership, local pickup only. There was my private mountain retreat, listed for auction by a seller named Pin Originals, a storefront run by HOA President Carla Hensley. Just days earlier, she called the sheriff's office, claiming I'd abandoned my property. She didn't know my trail cameras were rolling or that my smart doorbell recorded her snooping, measuring windows, and muttering about flipping it by Memorial Day. I'm Ethan Caldwell, and I live quietly in Willow Creek, a quaint HOA-governed mountain town known for sanctimonious potlucks and quarterly community enhancement fees. The kind of place where someone reports you for leaving your porch light on past 10 p.m. by day. I'm a freelance graphic designer for a tech startup. On weekends, I trek the 3-mile path to my solar-powered cabin just beyond town limits. It's off-grid, fully permitted, and undeniably mine. I built it 4 years ago after navigating a maze of county permits, inspections, and approvals. No internet, no cable, just the rustle of leaves, the scent of cedar, and pure, uninterrupted peace. But HOA Queen Carla Hensley, a woman who wears pearl earrings to mow her lawn and fancies herself Willow Creek's unofficial gatekeeper, decided my reclusive lifestyle was an affront to neighborhood unity. She made this clear at monthly HOA meetings, clutching her clipboard, adjusting her designer scarf, and lecturing about community engagement while glaring at me. Carla had opinions on everything: lawn mowing schedules, mailbox fonts, even the proper angle for holiday wreaths. My weekend escapes to a cabin she'd never visited but somehow knew about became her personal vendetta. The cabin was simple but perfect. Solar panels powered a few LED lights and a compact fridge. I had a propane stove, a cozy loft bed, and shelves stuffed with paperbacks. The structure sat on a sturdy concrete foundation with a permitted septic system and a hand-dug. Well, everything was legal, documented, and paid for. But to Carla, anything outside her jurisdiction was suspect. When I left for a mandatory work conference in Seattle, she saw her chance. On day 3 of my absence, she filed a complaint with the county, claiming my cabin was neglected, unoccupied, and a potential hazard. I later learned she'd driven her shiny Audi up the rugged trail, scratching the paint on boulders, to spy on my property with binoculars. Then she called the sheriff, reporting a suspicious structure of questionable legality that might attract vagrants. Deputy Reynolds hiked up to investigate and confirmed the cabin was up to code, registered, and well-maintained. But Carla wasn't deterred. She recruited the HOA board members, Tom and Evelyn, to assess the property for community welfare. My trail cameras captured them prying open shutters, peeking through windows, and debating paint colors. Tom suggested urban driftwood for the exterior, while Evelyn, perched on a step stool, tried to glimpse the loft, saying this could be a charming rental for the HOA's scholarship fund. Maybe at a shiplap accent wall, they spent nearly 2 hours poking around, snapping photos, at planning renovations like they were on a home makeover show. Tom's voice crackled through the audio. Carla says we can list it by Memorial Day if we hustle. The trail adds adventure appeal. They had no clue my cameras were recording, or that I was getting motion alerts on my phone from Seattle, watching their trespassing unfold in real time. That's when my neighbor Mike texted me a link to the HOA's latest newsletter, titled Unique Investment Opportunity for Willow Creek, written in Carla's flowery prose. It described an underutilized community asset that could fund neighborhood upgrades. It vaguely referenced a rustic off-grid structure soon available for community stewardship. Anyone who knew my cabin could connect the dots. That night, from my Seattle hotel room, I checked eBay, and there it was. The listing was audacious photos from my trail camera angles, showcasing my cabin's interior and exterior in crisp detail. The description was plagiarized from a blog post I'd written about off-grid living, including my musings about sunrise coffee on the deck and stargazing at night. Carla listed it under home and garden, with tags like tiny home, eco-living, and investment opportunity. The starting bid was $45,000, with a buy it now price of $55. Zero and a note about a motivated seller. Better questions were already piling up. One user asked, "Is this an actual house or a model? The weight says 18,000 pounds. Another wrote, "Does it include the bookshelves? I see novels in the photos." My favorite was a bidder who commented, "Tried to bid, but it says pickup only. Pretty sure this is someone's real home. 1 star. I spent the next hour documenting everything: screenshots of the listing, photos, description, and seller Details. I cross-referenced the images with my trail camera footage and found perfect matches. This wasn't just fraud, it was a recorded crime scene. I reported the listing to eBay, submitting a detailed complaint with photo evidence. Then I contacted my attorney, the county recorder, and my sister-in-law, Rachel, a real estate lawyer with a knack for dismantling shady schemes. I shared the eBay link on a homesteading forum I frequent, where it exploded under the headline, HOA tries to auction off-grid cabin. Forum members, fiercely protective of property rights and disdainful of meddling neighbors, turned it into a cause célèbre. They flooded the listing with sarcastic bids, reported it for fraud, and spread the story across Reddit, Twitter, and tiny home blogs. Someone made a meme with Carla's Hoa headshot and the caption, "I don't always steal cabins, but when I do, I list them on eBay." The internet frenzy was exactly what I needed. But I wasn't finished. I filed complaints with the Better Business Bureau, the state attorney general, and the county district attorney, detailing the trespassing, false sheriff call, forged Hoa authority, and attempted fraud. I cited a state statute on unlawful property interference with hefty penalties. My piece de resistance was an email to the entire Hoa board, attaching the eBay listing, trail camera footage, audio recordings, and a polite but firm cease and desist letter. One included my property deed, building permits, and a letter from my insurance company confirming the cabin's coverage. The subject line read, "Urgent, board member attempting to auction my property." On eBay, I CC'd every Willow Creek resident, because transparency matters in community governance. eBay removed the listing within hours, and Pin Originals was banned for fraud. County zoning officials showed up at Carla's house with notepads and pointed questions. She'd submitted forged HOA minutes claiming communal cabin oversight, a phrase the Attorney General's office found legally dubious. The documents included fake votes, forged signatures, and fabricated authority to manage non-existent community properties. Investigations revealed Carla had been plotting for months, researching adverse possession, abandoned property laws, and how to claim unoccupied real estate. Her laptop had a folder labeled Community Enrichment, filled with a guide to stealing my cabin, based on the flawed assumption that weekend absences equal abandonment. The Hoa board, facing potential lawsuits, suspended Carla immediately and waived 6 months of dues to avoid litigation. Tom resigned after his voice was identified on the recordings, and Evelyn issued a tearful apology, donating $1,500 to a local housing charity. The board hired a crisis lawyer and released a statement disavowing Carla's actions and any claim to private property. I hiked to my cabin and installed a 7-foot sign, "Private Property." Smile for the cameras. Carla, I upgraded my security with motion sensor floodlights, extra trail cameras, and a doorbell that plays Sweet Home Alabama when triggered. The cabin had never been safer or more unmistakably mine. The county held a public hearing on HOA reforms where I presented a slideshow titled, "So You Tried to Auction My Cabin on eBay, a Case Study in Absurdity." Local news covered it, and the story trended online. Carla's LinkedIn, once touting community leadership, was buried in comments. She was fined for trespassing, false advertising, and misusing Hoa funds. Her Etsy shop, Selling Home, is where the Hoa rules. Mugs was shut down. Carla now rents a 1-bedroom above a laundromat in a non-Hoa zone. She tried forming a tenant council, but the landlord threatened eviction. My cabin remains my sanctuary, now with a doorbell serenading visitors with Sweet Home Alabama. Call the sheriff on an empty cabin. You waste their time. Try to auction it on eBay, and you've scripted your own true crime saga.